Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Match Day 1-1 press conference before tomorrow's game in Portland. We will begin with midfielder Lola Bonta. Please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom, and we will call on you, or you can type your questions into the chat. And Daniel, we will begin with you.
Hello. I know the last two games haven't quite gone the way the team had wanted. I'm just curious, from your perspective, what's been your assessment of how things have kind of played out through the first three games of the season?
Oh, sorry. I thought there was going to be more to that. No, obviously the first game starting at home, we want that to be our fortress. We always want to win there. So we started off great. I think looking when we first looked at this calendar and saw the immediate three games on the road in 1 week, we knew it was going to be tough. And you look at it almost like, oh, I'm glad it's now at the beginning of the year rather than literally any other part of the year. It's hard to assess every single game because it has been immediate. Okay, we played, we're traveling the next day. Now we're practicing for that next game, doing the scout. I think we've always done that as the current is focusing on the game at hand. So it's really been hard, honestly, to look at all the games and really assess and break it down. I'm sure all the coaches are doing that. As a captain, I've just, tried to rally the troops like, come on, it's the next one now. Let's go. So when you look at our last game against Seattle and, they had just previously lost a game with players up. So we almost want to respond that way, right? We want to go into this weekend. We're coming off a loss and we want to come and we want to put a bunch of goals in the back of Portland's net. So hopefully, I know that was a whirlwind. Hopefully that answered all of that.
No, I did. I'm just, how much of you mentioned a little bit the travel and the difficulty, but with the injuries and bringing players back in, just how hard has it been to kind of understand yet what like the full picture of who this team is going to be this year is for you guys, given there's
Yeah,
been
there's
so many.
been a lot of changes, right? So again, it goes back to thankfully all of this is happening at the beginning of the season. Preseason, we had a lot of people in and out. Me personally, I've been trying to work my way back in. So there hasn't been that consistency for a lot of players, the team in general. So really figuring out and giving opportunities to everyone. I think this is the best time. We can learn from this. We can grow from this, and it's all happening at the beginning of the year, very early on in the season. Honestly, it's been such a long preseason. I forget it's only March right now. But it's yes, there's a lot of questions, and that's okay right now because we have time to sort it out.
And then just one last one. You kind of mentioned at the end of the last question, Chris Armas talked about it at in the press conference after the last game. Just the reaction coming from this team. What are you kind of expecting for the reaction tomorrow from this team after the last two results?
Yeah, it has to. We have to come out flying, right? It has to be intense. With this team, our culture is we respond, we go after teams. So you probably won't ever really see, us sitting back or a low block. Like we want to go have a high attacking, high intensity team, and that's what we're hoping to give you in Portland because their last game was, I think, their home opener, and it was one of their biggest crowds. So we're excited for that because we bring that in our stadium. So we're excited to play in that in Portland Stadium.
PJ, we'll turn it over to you next.
Hey, Lo. Yeah, just this is obviously the first time y'all have lost kind of back-to-back games in the past few seasons. Just what is it like kind of being on the other side of it? Just because, the past few years have been so successful for y'all.
Yeah, it's funny when you ask that question, like to me versus maybe someone who's only been on the team the last 2 years. They've only known success. I've had a very long career, so I've had a lot of ups and downs. So it's hard to, tell people like it's going to be okay. We can figure it out. Obviously, it hurts, especially coming off the year we had last year. But it's like I said, it's honestly, I'm so glad we're going through this now because, years prior, we've started hot and we've continued that streak, and then we've lost in playoffs. So I'd rather right now us struggle, get our losses out of our system, and then be very successful in playoffs. So but that's me, because I just have this perspective. Like I said, I've gone through all the ups and downs, but that's been my message. Some would
Yeah,
say I'm wise.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think that's part of why I asked you is because you've had all the experiences of being with this team, and then just being under this new regime. Just what is it like, kind of seeing some of the rookies try to figure it out in that last match, and then coming on late and then trying to kind of spark some fire with them.
Yeah, I think the rookies this year, they've come in and had to take on a lot of responsibility right off the bat because we've had so many injuries. So they necessarily haven't been able to look at some of our players and see, what that looks like. But they've taken on so much, and I know they're trying to learn. And so I would rather have them go out there and ask questions than, they just be out there and try and be a robot. Like, I want them to show their personality, and that's why we signed them. So I'm proud of them. I'm proud that they're still trying to learn and they have a higher expectation, just like we all do here. So I feel like I always say this in my press conferences. It's very easy to be a captain on this team when you have good people and good players just trying to be their best.
We have time for one more question. Matt, we will turn it over to you for the last one.
Hey, Lo, I know last year we kind of became accustomed to this team starting so fast, not just in the season, but in matches, especially, striking early kind of from the front foot. Through 3 matches, you've trailed at half in each. What have you kind of seen that's contributed to maybe these slower starts and then needing to essentially play catch up the rest of the 45?
Well, if we want to be literal, Tem was not out there. That takes a bunch of our speed off the field. But I think, again, there's been so much rotation. We've had new signings at different parts of the preseason and season. I think we signed Penelope, I don't know, the day or two before one of our games. But everyone's trying to learn the new tactics and new style with Chris, and that's okay, because the person next to them is going to help them out. So yes, it's very early on and we're figuring out, and again, I think that's okay, but I'm just going to say, because it's new and we're all figuring it out.
Thank you, Lo. Good luck tomorrow, and thank you, everyone. We will be back with Chris shortly. All right, we are back with head coach Chris Armas. Same thing as before. Please use the raise your hand feature or type your question into the chat. Daniel, we'll kick it off to you.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned the reaction that you hope for to have a big reaction going into this game tomorrow. I'm just curious, what do you want to see specifically in kind of the reaction, to the last couple of games, the last couple of results out of the team that you put out there tomorrow?
Listen, the reaction is just one that should feel like a sense of real urgency going into this next game. That's it. But there'll be new players on the pitch. There'll be a different group. So it's just as a group, a reaction right after the game that is all about togetherness, just staying with it. It's a tough stretch, tough road stretch. So the reaction was much our reaction emotionally after a loss. The game is going to come, and we'll have a strong lineup out there, and that there'll be no doubt about it that the idea is to push for a big win. So that I have no doubt, especially getting a bunch of players back in. So, and then you mentioned the last few games. They're very different games. So the Chicago game, obviously, we didn't give up much the entire game, but we give up a couple of goals. So it's a real attention to set pieces and things like that. And this game, it was a lot of new players and young players, and that's part of development. It's part of a growing process. And for us, it means we got to be patient with that, while at the same time we're protecting other players that are coming back from injury and logging big minutes. So, yeah, listen, we think about everything, but the most important thing is that we're going to get back out there, wrap up this road trip the right way, getting people healthy, and that we're getting close.
And then I just wanted to ask about those goals specifically. I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit after the game, but I was just curious specifically on some of those crosses that are in there. Is there things that can be done better to close down? Is it communication? Like what have you kind of seen as you've assessed the way some of those goals have gone in against you over the last couple of games?
Yeah, there's always room to get better. And this is something that we do work on. But, it's one is a corner kick. It's a second phase, and a player hits a volley from outside the box, and Lorena gets a hand on it, and it goes into the net. So, yeah, can people close down quicker in moments? Always. There's always little behaviors. But that you can maybe credit the shooter. A couple of the other crosses were really good crosses, whipped in, but we still talk about angling and positioning in the box and first contact and jumping early and the perception of depth perception. So listen, these things come like this. It's just something we continue to work at. But oftentimes when we're in a low block, the thing most importantly, we try to get a lot of numbers inside that goal zone in front of Lorena. So it's, again, this is just repeat in training, and we have to just continue to know that this is a way that teams can score and a way we can concede.
Cool. Thanks, Coach.
Sure.
PJ, we'll hand it over to you next.
Hey, Coach. You talk about these new lineups and new players coming out. Just wanted to ask how y'all are kind of tinkering with who you want to pair up with when, especially with just two midfielders. So just wanted to see what the science is kind of behind the rotation.
Yeah, listen, it's a jigsaw puzzle in a lot of ways, especially with as many NWSL teams, not just us, have had to navigate the Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, which it means there's just 2 days of rest in between each. That normally can be tricky for a healthy player, let alone when it's Michelle Cooper and Lola Bonta and Rocky Rodriguez and Croy Bethune, trying to get them back from injury, let's say, / building up Croy's minutes. So now you have to think about how to manage that. And yeah, then it means that in game 2 of the 3 game, we just had to rotate a bit, which we thought we were going to rotate anyhow. How many would we have to rotate becomes a question. How many and you got to take each game at a time. So it's this equation that you take game by game with a plan at the start of the week, as I told you all, and then the young players get opportunity, which we know is going to pay dividends later on. In that, you want to get the results. So here we are heading into game 3, and all along it's just that it's not more so about partnerships, just knowing who we can push the big minutes from and what are minute restrictions for players, knowing you only have 5 subs. So it's just been this little puzzle to try to figure out each game without getting ahead of ourselves, because we came in thinking we want to get results in every game. So now heading into game 3, we should have a strong lineup out there and be able to also push some minutes with a group that you all probably would say feels like a very normal lineup, as you'd imagine. So we're excited for it and get back home after that. But we want to wrap this up in a big way with a big result.
Yeah, and a big result. Portland is always a tough test to go to in this league. Just what have you seen from them, and just kind of first impressions of their squad?
Yeah, here's what I'd say about Portland. You have to understand the fan base, the type of building that is, the environment there. It's loud, it's energetic, which is a big plus if you're a professional soccer player, to play in front of that atmosphere, which is not always the case. And then you know that they're coming off they want results too in their building. So it'll be 2 teams looking for points. We know them. They'll be organized. They'll come at us at times, but they're an organized group. They can hurt you in counters. We see some areas that we can attack, and we know it's going to be, managing the crowd, managing our emotions. Every time there's a set piece, the crowd comes to life. I've coached in that building before. That's the first hurdle. And then, of course, there's the opposition, which will be organized and tough. So we've watched them closely. It's going to be a tough game, but they all are. So it's we'll put our best foot forward here to try to challenge them in every way.
Matt, we'll turn it over to you next.
Hi, Chris. I'm curious what you've seen watching back some of these games, obviously trailing at halftime in each of your first 3. What needs to change for this group to get off to a faster start in these first 45s?
Yeah, it's really interesting. In all these games, we had some moments, if we're sharper early, we might score first. Ironically, even in Seattle, it's one where Gianna Paul intercepts one in a high press right inside the 18, and we don't quite pull it off. It ends with Penelope Hocking taking a shot that went over. So the start to the game it's one thing, and maybe you can just make a couple more plays. But overall, it's when you think about scoring first, it's an interesting statistic, that you win more often than not. So if you could just score first. Now, how do you do that, right? It still comes to defending your own box, defending transition moments, defending set pieces, and that has cost us a bit. Like last game, first corner kick of the game for Seattle, they scored 15 minutes in. Well, that was their only corner kick of the entire game, I believe. So it's, those 8 seconds worth of a corner kick, we just have to be alert and online, I say, really tuned in. And again, it becomes a little bit a game of randomness where you can't even point fingers. Not that we want to do it, but you just got to come to life and get that done. So, yeah, it's starting the game strong, but being focused and alert on every dead ball situation, and then really pushing the tempo to try to score first.
Has playing 3 consecutive away matches on turf played into your decision on squad rotation and substitutions?
Well, I've talked about it earlier on this call here, but if my job was just about winning a soccer game, I put out different lineups for sure, because it's each time just giving ourselves the best chance on that given day. If my job is to do that, win games, but also protect the players and look out for players and also help development, then it's about rotation. So it's both, that we like going into the depth of our roster, but we would like to do it more out of choice, not sometimes when players are on restricted minutes, coming off injuries, 2 days rest. Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday would be different from Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. That extra day hurts a bit. So I think the most important thing is, as we're trying on this quest to lift a trophy and win games, you got to protect the players, put them in spots to succeed. And that's been my focus, to try to do both at the same time. And I think in game 1, we really put ourselves in a game to win, in a spot there. Game 2 was a tough one. And we knew that if we went longer, 0-0, 1-0, we bring in our players in the second half, but it didn't go that way. And now in game 3, I think we're going to put ourselves in a really good spot. So yes, the week has challenged us, and our status of healthy players has also challenged us. But this is where we're at, and we're ready for this next one, and we're certainly ready to get back home and get ready for home cooking too.
And we'll end on that. Thank you, Coach. Good
All right.
luck tomorrow.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.